Luke Ball, Republican strategist and former House Communications Director, and Joe Cunningham, former Democrat congressman from South Carolina, join me now. That was a former Obama aide. He said he didn't know, but guess who I think did know and why he didn't endorse Biden for presidency? One guess. Barack Obama, Luke.
I completely agree, and thank you for having me on Memorial Day. We're so grateful to the millions of people who laid down their lives so we could have this type of political discourse. So let's engage in our First Amendment right because of those soldiers that laid down their life. I think that the Democrats have a major credibility problem moving forward. Three great lies in presidential history. George H.W. Bush, read my lips, no new taxes. Bill Clinton, I did not have relations with that woman. And Joe Biden is totally mentally fit to execute the office of President of the United States. So I would even compliment folks on the Democrat side, people like Ro Khanna, who are engaging in discussions with Republicans across the aisle and making sure that they can try and claw back some of that populist base that Trump built up. But the media and the Democrats have a lot of explaining to do to the American people because they lied to us for years on end.
Joe, this cover-up, which, by the way, is one of the greatest in American history, presidential history, for sure, has brought new spotlight on what officials in the Biden administration said at the time about the former president's health. Why do we care? Oh, well, I don't know, because Americans deserve to know who was running the country and who was signing away all those bills, who was signing judges into office. Otto Penn or Joe Biden? James Comer, the chairman of the House Oversight Committee, is now demanding former President Biden's physician and White House aides sit for interviews as part of an investigation into Biden's mental and physical decline. But will there be hell to pay? I mean, is there somebody who's going to be held accountable for this massive cover-up?
I mean, Julie, it's a great question. And I can tell you that right now, after learning about the recent news of former President Biden's health, I'm praying for him. I'm praying for him and his family. And, I can't imagine what they're going through.
Of course not.
He's endured a lot, but we can have empathy for his family and for him and his health crisis he's now facing. We can also have accountability, too. And accountability for those around him. And, anybody who was, within his orbit of influence, who knew his health condition, who knew of this situation. But I can tell you that, for one, as millions of Americans saw with their own eyes and heard with their own ears, we realized that he's in no condition to run for that second term. And so, look, I think I'm glad we're having this conversation because, as Luke mentioned, I totally agree with him. There's a credibility issue within the Democratic Party. And this first must be addressed because as I look at pundits and people across the Democratic political spectrum, they're not only looking at the same sheet of paper, they're not only reading from the same book. So this first has to be addressed before you move on.
Yeah. Luke, Senator Ron Johnson also wants those from Biden's inner circle to come to testify, and that includes Jill Biden, who I have accused of elder abuse from the very beginning. If anyone knew the mental state or the cognitive state of the President of the United States, it was his wife, and she covered him up probably more than anyone else.
Completely. We need to know what this cocoon that surrounded Joe Biden knew at the time, because my theory is that they knew full well the state of Joe Biden's mental capacity. The political strategists that stood to get a lot of money off of Joe Biden knew full well the state of his mental capacity. But the Democrats wanted to get Joe Biden in there so that maybe he steps aside and Kamala Harris gets in the office herself, because I don't think that even their polling showed that she would be able to win the presidency on her own merit. I think she got a whopping 3% in the 2020 primaries when she ran on her own. She was wildly unpopular at the beginning. So I think that they had a game plan from the beginning, and I think you're completely right that it was elder abuse. I'm not going to rain down on Joe Biden, but we do need to know, what did his family know that pushed him to do this, and what did the political cocoon surrounding him know that also pushed him to do this?
Luke Ball and Joe Cunningham, thank you so much for joining us on this Memorial Day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.